Hi, welcome back, guys. This is your friend Cinnamon Roll. What if with another fiction? What if Deku Batwoman in a hero's world? Now, before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now, let's get into the fanfic. Lore so far. Catherine Kane, or just Kate for short, began her journey as Batwoman that starts with the accident car crash that was caused by Joker, which Batman was able to thwart. Unfortunately, the car carrying both Kate's mom Gabby and her sister Beth falls into the river below. The bridge after the wires that Batman used to keep the car from falling suddenly breaks. Both Gabby and Alice were both presumed dead and skeletons were found on the wreckage. Their deaths would haunt both Kate and her father Jacob, even Bruce Wayne, who was Batman and Kate's cousin. Unknown to all of them, Beth was actually still alive and kidnapped by August Cartwright, who was a psychopathic doctor, and was a colleague of Jonathan Crane, aka the Scarecrow, who held Beth for half her life to be a companion for August's son Jonathan, who Beth calls Mouse. After seeing the decapitated head of her mother Gabby in the fridge, and realizing the earrings that August's mother Mabel have on her actually belongs to her mother Gabby, Beth finally snaps after years of torture, and being held eventually kills Mabel by incinerating her using an oxygen tank as a makeshift flamethrower. Beth left with Mouse and becomes the villain known as Alice and forms the Wonderland Gang. Back in Gotham, Jacob forms the Crow's security since Batman is absent for 3 years. Alice makes her move by kidnapping Kate's ex-girlfriend Sophie Moore with the help of a corrupt Crow's operative. Kate was called back to Gotham by her stepsister Mary Hamilton. Well, it didn't go well when she tried to look for Sophie herself due being captured and knocked out by Alice before being found by Mary. Kate later traveled to Wayne Tower and meet Luke Fox in hopes that she can find Bruce. But instead she found the Batcave and realizes that Bruce was Batman this whole time. Luke told Kate that Bruce never stopped thinking about that accident and tries to figure out what went wrong. Well, Kate made her choice to protect Gotham City by becoming Batwoman. She was able to save Sophie in her first fight against Alice and her Wonderland Gang. Kate's batsuit is just modified design and refit of Bruce's batsuit. In time she modifies it even more with a red colors and a red wig. Ever since Kate became Batwoman, she battles other villains aside from just Alice, whom she would come to suspect is actually her sister Beth. These villains is Thomas Elliot aka Hush, Magpie, Roman Sionis aka Black Mask, and more. Also, she did help many other heroes from other cities around the world, including Oliver Queen aka the Green Arrow during the crisis on Infinite Earths. Also, Kate would ended up meeting another Beth who was a doppelganger from another Earth, who somehow ended up in Earth Prime after the multiverse was restored. But Beth was killed by August Cartwright, who mistakes her for Alice. August himself, posing as Nathan Campbell, was later killed by an enraged Kate, after he blurted out what he has done to both Beth and Gabby, which caused Kate become just like the alternate Bruce Wayne, who went mad as Batman after killing one villain in his Earth, even the other Superman, which resulted him on getting a disability. Bruce was also driven mad after his Kate died in unknown circumstances after she took up Bruce's mantle and became Batwoman. Kate from Earth Prime then accidentally killed him by electrocuting him after she came to Kara aka Supergirl's defense. Bruce's last words before he died is no hope for this universe. Kate as Batwoman did come into conflict with her father too, since he has no idea that she is Batwoman, and was able to evade him anyway. Either way, Kate would continue protecting Gotham City much like her cousin Bruce Wayne did for many years as Batman. XXX. Present time. Kate was on a plane when it suddenly crashes after some part of the plane gets blown up. She thought her life is finally ended on this plane, or so did she thought. Kate finds herself in some void. Where am I? Kate wonders as she floats around the void. Kate Kane aka Batwoman. Some metallic voice speaks, but cannot be seen anyway. Who is that? Who I am doesn't matter. You'll be reborn in another, would which you know as a fictional anime. Before Kate can respond, she gets engulfed in a bright light. Kate came Batwoman's paw. Last time, I thought my life was over when the plane I was on board in crashed. But then suddenly I found myself in some void, and some person with a metallic voice tells me, I will be reborn in some universe where it's actually a fictional anime back in my Earth. I wonder what anime that was fictional I will be landing in. If I'm there, then that will probably mean I'm stuck there permanently. Anyway, here goes nothing. End of POF. XXX. Present time. When Kate wakes up and finds herself in a bat cave that looks really identical to the one in Wayne Tower, except looks more vast than the original. It just looks a little expanded or vast, Kate said, seeing some extra space around the bat cave. She sees the two Batmobiles, which is the one she knows, but the second she doesn't recognize at all. She see a Batwing and a Batboat, which she doesn't recognize either. Plus her familiar Batbike is there too. She sees her Batsuit, which is the same one she modified with red colors, and the red wig she's been using through her days on saving Gotham from crime after Bruce was absent from being Batman. All of her Bat tools and equipment are there too. Lastly, there is the same Bat computer she will need as well. Also, she 3 other vehicles she doesn't recognize from her Earth. 2 are matches that have signs of them and reads Nightcrawler and Justice Buster. Lastly, the last one is aircraft called the Flying Fox. Some of these vehicles I don't recognize, such as the Batwing, Batboat, Tumbler, Nightcrawler, Justice Buster, and Flying Fox. But still, they could be useful from where I am now, Kate said after inspecting and taking a good look at all of the vehicles that are all new to her. All my Bat tools are all here. Plus, it seems I also have all of the materials I need to make an endless supply of the tools I need whenever I go out as Batwoman. Also, I have the railgun that Tommy Elliott stole from Wayne Enterprises, Kate said after seeing everything she needs, even the railgun that Tommy was going to use to kill Batman before, only to be thwarted by Batwoman. Let's see where I am. Kate then gets on the Bat computer and working to pinpoint her location or where the Bat cave is. What Kate learned is the Bat cave is located outside the big city, much to her surprise, is identified as Musatafu City. Am I in the fictional anime known as the My Hero Academy? Well, I should find out for myself rather than looking at Bat computer and see if I can find the protagonist of MHA, whose name is Izuku Midoriya and goes by hero alias Deku. But I'll be using the Batwing this time. I think know how to fly it for sure. Even though this new to me, Kate puts on her Batwoman costume, then boards the Batwing, and then flies out the Batcave without any problem to see for herself and look for Izuku Midoriya. For some reason, I seem to have no problem on knowing how to fly the Batwing. Oh, this Batwing has a stealth mode and VTOL mode. Interesting. This might help me look for Izuku Midoriya undetected by anyone's radar. Batwoman activates the stealth mode on the Batwing, so she won't be detected on radar while she looks for Izuku. I did watch mecha anime during most of my time and gained some knowledge about the anime. Unlike my Earth, every hero are working for the governments and the UN, because the maker of MHA never put the part where the MHA cast are supposed to also battle corrupt officials. But still, even though I'm here, I know there is corruption here too. Batwoman said to herself about what she knows of the MHA universe, even the fact there is corruption too. It just doesn't shows itself. XXX. Musatafu City, high above. Activating VTOL mode. Batwoman activates the Batwing's VTOL mode and use its video camera to search for Izuku Midoriya, who could be anywhere in the city doing whatever he is doing. Izuku Midoriya began and started off as quirkless or just powerless, which left him saddened when he realized he cannot fulfill his dream. Until he met his idol Toshinori Yagi Aka, All Might, who was the symbol of peace, but have seen his weakened form that he sustained from his battle against his arch-nemesis All for One. Izuku had a quirk, which he was sharing with All Might after he made him his apprentice. Batwoman talked about what she knows about the MHA anime, but focus on Izuku's rise to a hero that he wanted to be right after meeting All Might. Priors before that, Izuku had a fallout with his friend Katsuki Bakugo after learning he was quirkless and started to bully him while he had an explosion quirk. Despite Izuku is sharing All Might his quirk and being student in Yua High, Katsuki still wants to prove that he is better than Izuku. Anyway, Batwoman continues looking for Izuku high above the city And eventually, he catches a glimpse of Izuku walking with a familiar woman holding hands with him. Yu Taikama aka MT Lady, quirk gigantification. What is she his lover? Because I'm pretty sure they had no relationship in the actually MHA anime. Unless this is an alternate MHA universe that I landed in where they are lovers. MT Lady and Izuku rarely interacted with each other in the actually MHA anime, which is canon since all they all team up with heroes against villains. Batwoman zooms the camera closer and scans Izuku for his quirk, and it turns out he has the one for all quirk. That's good news. Well, that's all I came to see. And now I will go back to the Batcave. Just like that, Batwoman flies back to the Batcave. XXX. Batcave. Batwoman is checking the Batcomputer again to see what should she do next, and she has answer to that. I will be paying Yua High a visit. That's her plan, all right. But she will be going to Yua as Batwoman too. Also, I'll keep myself undetected by anyone, because in MHA universe, which is a alternate universe, I'm a total stranger who doesn't have quirk and just my military training to fight crime. Batcave. Kate is busying building a link to the Batcomputer because there is no one here to help her get some guidance on where to go like when she was in Gotham back on her Earth. So she will need to be sure she gets some guidance by building and making a device that will link her to the Batcomputer and her Batsuit. That did it. Kate then puts the device into her wrist gauntlet that be sure she stays linked to the Batcomputer while she is out on the field, and she can easily get some guidance. Now to pay Yua High a visit. But I will do that as Batwoman because I'm still stranger in the MHA universe, and nobody knows me at all. Well, that's Kate's plan from the time being, but at least she will watching everybody in Yua High from the shadows of day where no one will find her. Before Kate Batwoman get on board the same Batmobile used by Bruce, she looks at the big four-legged machine that's a far distances away from the two Batmobiles. Batwoman gets a good look, and thanks to the link to the Batcomputer, she was able to know what it is, the Nightcrawler. The Nightcrawler could be useful when I need it in some missions that would require bigger firepower, Batwoman said to herself before getting on board the Batmobile and drives out of the Batcave. Nobody will see me inside the Batmobile because the whole windows are very blacked. Batwoman is safe from being seen from the inside of the Batmobile thanks to the blackened windows. But I will stay on the rooftops while watching them and keep the Batmobile hidden where no one will ever find it. XXX. Yua High. Yua High, the school to train next-generation quirk superheroes. Yua isn't the only hero school in the city. There's many all over the world, Batwoman said, while watching from rooftops using binoculars. She keeps the Batmobile hidden somewhere where no one will ever find it. Looks like Izuku is with those he knows as friends. Batwoman watches Izuku spend time with Ochako, Shoto, Ijiro, Tenya, Denki, Mainta, Momo, and his hot-tempered childhood friend Katsuki Bakugo. Sheesh, Katsuki Bakugo is always believes just because he has a explosion quirk, which means he's better than everyone else. He also has a big dislike of those who are quirkless. Batwoman comment on how antagonistic Kaken is due to his explosion quirk and his dislike of the quirkless. Both Izuku and Kaken were childhood friends in the past, but all that has changed when Kaken has his explosion quirk and Izuku was quirkless. Kaken and his boys begins to bully Izuku for being quirkless and say he can never be a hero like those who have a quirk. Even after Izuku got his quirk from All Might, Kaken tries to prove that he is better than Izuku and every other hero. Batwoman commented on what she know about Izuku and Kaken's old friendship that is now more like competitors. They believe they can save world from crime, which they can. But they also have to be on a lookout for corrupt government officials, corrupt business people, and corrupt law enforcements. Batwoman knows dealing with corruption like that was never seen in the MHA universe. But that didn't mean there is no corruption. Oh, Batwoman moves to take cover when she notices Izuku look like he could notice her from the rooftops next to the school. XXX. Yua High. What is it, Deku? Ochako asked as Izuku was looking at the rooftops. Nothing. I could have sworn something was there. Maybe it was just a feeling. Izuku said, choosing to shrug it off. So you're going out with MT Lady again, right? Denki asked if that Izuku is going to after school is finish. Yeah. XXX. Batcave. Kate Batwoman returns to see something else from the Batcomputer. Let's see what I can deal with against crime without anyone noticing me. Because in the MHA universe, corruption isn't very common, unlike in my world. Just because they don't see corruption doesn't mean it's not there. Kate Batwoman is planning to take her first action without anyone seeing her. Because she is a stranger in the MHA universe. Many heroes are licensed by the government, but they have no idea about corruption within, because not everything cannot be corrupted. I got a target now. Kate Batwoman found a target she can go after and take out some villains. That Batwing can get me out of there before any heroes or police can see me. Kate Batwoman gets on board the Batwing because being in the air could get her away from the area before anyone can see her. Vigilantes in the MHA universe do exist here too. But some are viewed as a threat, but some are acceptable as long as they don't abuse their powers. Well, Batwoman doesn't abuse anything, even if she doesn't have any superpowers. Also, if I manage to subdue any of the MHA cast, I really need to explain myself about my universe that's very different from theirs, even the corruption that's rampant much like crime is. Batwoman will get that chance to explain herself and her universe to the MHA cast once she subdues them all. This might get them to understand the meaning of corruption within governments, businesses, and within law enforcements too. Kate came Batwoman's puff. Okay, here goes nothing with my first action in the MHA universe. All I can do is take down a villain, then get out of there before anyone can see me. What else I need to do is leave no traces of my presence for no other hero, or the police to find before I leave the area, which is in a construction area and it's top of a roof. Right now, some random villain with a sniper rifle known as Lady Nagant is about to shoot All Might in an assassination attempt, while he gives out a speech at the Musatafu Combat Arena or Sports Festival Arena. Well, All Might does have some pro-heroes and police to protect him, but nobody knows where Lady Nagant is anyway. Also, I might want to warn them using a light of Morse code in order to direct them where Lady Nagant is and restrained. End of POV. XXX. Construction site. Batwoman on board the Batwing arrives at the scene of the construction site without Lady Nagant knowing of her presence because she puts the Batwing on stealth mode and be sure she doesn't hear any jet engines. Here it goes. Batwoman gets out of the Batwing and jumps down at the construction building and throws a batarang that strikes and explodes on Lady Nagant's armed sniper rifle, damaging it before she can take the shot at All Might while he is already giving out his speech. Lady Nagant then turns her attention to Batwoman, who is ready to fight her in CQC. Who are you? Lady Nagant demanded after turning to see Batwoman. I'm Batwoman, she introduced herself. Batwoman? Lady Nagant signed, do never hearing about this heroine and thinks she's new. Then Lady Nagant wastes no more words and attacks Batwoman by aiming her right-armed sniper rifle at, but was disabled when Batwoman used another batarang, which renders is useless now. With no sniper rifle on her, she resort to CQC, but Batwoman stuns her with a whack to the chest, pushing her back. Nevertheless, Lady Nagant continues to fight on as Batwoman blocks each attack from Lady Nagant before tackling her to the ground. Lady Nagant pulls out a pistol, but Batwoman knocks it off her hand after smacking her right hand, and the pistol falls out of the rooftop, which frustrates Lady Nagant, who then pulls out her dagger. But Batwoman uses her wrist gauntlets to block Lady Nagant's attempt to stab her before kicking her off, and then gets back on her feet with a jump up, and Lady Nagant ended up dropping her dagger. Lady Nagant also gets back on her feet and attacks Batwoman in full frustration, but is unable to land a hit on her as she keeps dodging all of her strikes. Before Batwoman uppercuts Lady Nagant on the chin, after a short fist lock and spins kicks her, making her slam into the metal pole, damaging her back and denting the pole. Dang it all! Lady Nagant, still not down, attempts back up her feet and continue the fight, but is knocked out after by a high-powered punch to the face by Batwoman, which ends the fight. Either way, All Might can say his speech safely without getting a bullet to the head in front of the crowd. Stay down, Lady Nagant, because I need to know who sent and hired you to assassinate All Might anyway, Batwoman said before restraining Lady Nagant with her grapple gun. Also, Batwoman gets to work on being sure nobody knows or her presences and leaving no traces. XXX. Later on. Lady Nagant, you up now? Lady Nagant wakes up, but finds herself restrained and unable to move. Even her quirk isn't working. What is it you want from me now, Batwoman? Who hired you to assassinate All Might? I couldn't see the man's face. All he asked me to do is eliminate All Might, and that was it. Lady Nagant gave out the information to Batwoman without a second thought in her mind. That's it? That's all I can say to you, Batwoman. Why don't you go use your sonar quirk vision to seek him out? Lady Nagant taunted her, thinking she has a quirk which is a sonar vision like a real bat does. Ha 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 ha. Batwoman only laughs on response to that question. What are you laughing about? For the record, Lady Nagant, nobody needs a quirk or superpowers to be hero, just to fight a villain whether or not they have any quirk or superpowers. They their wits and skills to fight crime, and nobody needs to be a hero to what evil really looks like. Lady Nagant becomes shocked and surprised after hearing what Batwoman had just revealed. You mean you don't have a quirk, and yet you were able to defeat me? True. Where I come from is a different dimension, and every hero is a vigilante because corruption is rampant along with crime. So the honest are very trustful toward vigilante heroes, but not at first. Plus, this universe you know and live in is known as My Hero Academy, and it is really a fictional anime in my dimension. Batwoman explains her dimension and shows a picture of the MHA anime. So you're saying my dimension is really just a fictional anime in your dimension? Then how are you here? I was on board a plane when it crashed, and I thought I was going to die. But instead I was reborn in the MHA universe, thanks to some being who I couldn't see, except hear his metallic voice. Well, I'm going to leave you here for the heroes and the police to find. But I want you to forget that you ever saw me. Batwoman then warps Lady Nagant's memory, using her wrist device on her gauntlet, in order to hide her presences. What's next? Batwoman starts flashing the lights toward the direction where All Might can see it after he finishes speech. But he isn't the only who noticed the flashing light from a distance away. Lady Nagant, All Might said after understanding the Morse code. XXX. That got their attention. Time to go. Batwoman said after notice that they are coming in her direction. After that was done, she returns to the Batwing and flies away from the construction site back to the Batcave. She was also able to inform the heroes and police about Lady Nagant by pretending to be some random civilian using text messages. Kate came Batwoman's path. So I managed to prevent an assassination attempt on All Might that was going to be caused by Lady Nagant. I was able to subdue her, and then informs the authorities and heroes about Lady Nagant without anyone noticing me. But before I did that, I warped her mind and memories, so she doesn't tell anyone about my presences. Well, so far on the news, Lady Nagant hasn't revealed her encounter with me, and what I did to her thanks to her warped mind and memories. Plus, she was unable to tell them who hired her to kill All Might due to never seeing the face of the one who hired her. Well, let's just live with it. Besides, I may have to look for the person who hired Lady Nagant the hard way and longer way. Of course, that's what Bruce would do as Batman. End of POV. XXX. Batcave. Kate is busy checking what's the fuel sources for the Batmobile and Tumbler, even the other vehicles, aircrafts and matches. Well, it turns out the fuel is actually a unlimited power source notes. Looks like big Duracell or Energizer battery, except small in size for it to fit in the vehicles, but has unlimited energy. Well, it's good to know that my fuel source for all my vehicles, aircrafts and the mechas have unlimited energy, even though it looks like a very big battery that I'm familiar with, Kate said before going back to the Bat computer that's showing the news. It would seems we have a new vigilante in our hands, All Might said to the news reporter. Yeah, they really have no idea that I did that, and their first assumption is a new vigilante. Kate commented after hearing what the people, police, and other heroes are saying on the news to the press and media. In the MHA universe, vigilantes may be a threat to them is because most have already forgotten that the first generation of heroes who began as heroic vigilantes before the governments and unchanged all that. Well, the MHA universes has never dealt with corruption before, because the way Kohei Horikoshi created the MHA universe is all the cast should only fight against the villains, and not corrupt officials or any that has to do with corruption. Perhaps is because Kohei Horikoshi wanted the MHA to be less references on how the real superheroes in concept fights crime. Well, maybe I should fight crime the way I know it, but without any other pros or law enforcements noticing me until I'm ready to reveal myself in this MHA universe. Kate stands up, gets on her Batwoman suit, gather whatever tools she needs and ride on the tumbler, then drives out of the Batcave for some action to take around Musutafu City. I'll just target quirkless robberies and other quirkless criminals, such as muggers, then quickly disappear before anyone can respond to that. Kate Batwoman muttered to herself on what she needs to do. That's interesting. This tumbler Batmobile has a stealth mode. Could be useful to avoid detection while on the road, she said after seeing the stealth mode that the tumbler has that she can use to hide from detection while on the road. XXX. Musutafu City nighttime. Quirkless robbers armed with shotguns and pistols are robbing a small store, and just before they can escape with the money they stole, their guns gets knocked off their hands by batarangs. Then their legs get wrapped around by a cable wire, and then all pulled up and hanged upside down by the light poles. Got you all, Kate Batwoman said from the top of the light poles and quickly flees from the rooftops before police and pro-heroes responders can arrive. Especially hide from any witnesses that might see her, even retrieving her batarang so nobody will find it. Even warp the robbers' memories so they cannot tell who stopped them. XXX. Next day. Well, that was good, Kate said, while having breakfast in some random fast food store in the city, and reading the newspaper which is about the mysterious vigilante, which is actually Batwoman. On the next night is a quirkless mugger mugging a woman for her purse. The mugger was then pulled up by Batwoman's grapple hook, causing him to drop the purse that the mugged woman catches. You're welcome, Kate Batwoman whispers before fleeing to the next area, leaving the mugged woman there, and have no idea who her savior was while the mugger hangs upside unconscious and his memories warped. XXX. Next day. I'm getting some good attention on this, Kate muttered while riding on her motorcycle around Musutafu City. But I know my actions will catch dozens of villains' attention too. Kate is thinking it would be the League of Villains. Could be anyone. In different part of the city during the night, more quirkless robbers hijacks an armored truck filled with money. They manage stop pursuing police forces by shooting at them and manage to fend off some of the pro-heroes. What's that? One of them asks as they see a black armored-looking car which turns out to be the tumbler coming at them. The tumbler drives past them and overtakes them, and then drops what turns out to be landmines. The same ones used in Batman Begins that detonates when the armored truck drives on them and causes it flip over and knocking out all of the robbers out on impact. Later on, the police and pro-heroes would find all of the robbers tied up and disarmed on the overturned armored truck. Kate Batwoman also warps the robbers' memories to be sure they have no idea who stopped them. XXX. Next day once more. Once more Batwoman is getting all some attention when it comes to quirkless villains, Kate said reading the newspaper while having coffee at a random cafe store. In the Musutafu City docks on the next night, Batwoman stealthy takes out more quirkless villains from the shadows, while she uses her CQC attacks, such as her punches and kicks even her bow staff on them without them noticing her, even giving them a scare whenever she appears out of nowhere. Plus, she be sure there are explosions to get anyone's attention, and gets these thugs arrested without being seen. Well, that wraps things up. Time to leave. Batwoman drives away from the docks as the fast police and pro-heroes responders are approaching. Okay, I think I did enough for this one tonight. Time to head back to the Batcave. Batwoman believes she has done enough for the past 3 nights, but she will continue to do more for another time. Also, I have to go up against quirk villains the next time I go out there again. Well, it's not like Kate Batwoman went up against villains with superpowers before back in her universe, especially during the day. Since many our heroes are active during both day and night, Kate notes to herself that she needs to take action during the day too other than the night. XXX. Batcave. What a night I've been through dealing with quirkless villains for 3 nights. But the next will be up against quirk villains. Kate commented, getting out of the tumbler, but stays on her batsuit and then gets on the bat computer. I wonder what's on tonight's news. Kate sets the news for her to watch, but she is expecting seeing what she has done with most of the villains out of the night streets of Musatafu City. Yeah, keep saying it was a mysterious vigilante, Kate commented before removing her mask. I wonder who else is watching this, which will also might get their attention. Kate might be also talking about the League of Villains, assuming her action already got their attention too. XXX. League of Villains Lair. Whoever this mysterious vigilante is, I would like to meet him or her. The one who said that is all for one. Leader of the League of Villains and nemesis of All Might. Batcave. Kate is busy creating a type of watch that can help her change into her Batwoman costume faster, and this can make it easy her when she needs to spring into action. Also, she can be with all day and night as long as she wants. Well, that watch can teleport her Batwoman costume and civilian outfit back to the Batcave whenever she wants. Well, I may not be finished with this watch yet, but I'll take some time off from getting it done, Kate said before going back to the Bat computer to see what goes on in Musatafu City. What she is seeing is both MT Lady and Kamui Woods take out a random villain, but instead it was MT Lady who got all the glory in the end, leaving Kamui Woods depressed. How typical of MT Lady, who can never give Kamui Woods some glory and some credit. Kate commits feeling sorry for Kamui Woods, and always trying to get enough popularity, even when dating Izuku Midoriya. But I know that MT Lady is supposed to be the protagonist alongside Izuku Midoriya during the making of MHA. Well, MT Lady was a prototype of Ochaku Uraraka. But in the end, everyone who watched the anime knows how it came to be. Now off to Musatafu City, and it's time I take this action during the day as well, Kate comments and stands up. Kate puts on her Batwoman costume and gather all of her bat tools she will use during the day. Then she gets on board the Batwing, knowing that she would want to up in the air, so no one can catch up to her that easily. Kate Batwoman takes off and flies out of the Batcave to Musatafu City. Daylight action, huh? Well, most of us did take some action during the day, Kate Batwoman muttered to herself about that. Well, someone like Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow, who died trying to save the multi-universe from the Anti-Monitor and the Crisis. I know Oliver has done that many times before aside from, and the other heroes of my universe. XXX. Musatafu Streets. Kate Batwoman is on the rooftop during the day, while her Batwing stays on VTOL mode, and she can call out to it anytime. She looks around for sign of trouble, but what caught her eye? Some woman who was at next roof is watching and waves at her. Can it be? Kate Batwoman wonders after knowing that woman looks somewhat familiar for some reason. Pow! Kate Batwoman knocks out a random quirkless thug who was sneaking up behind her. Shouldn't be sneaking up on others, Kate Batwoman said before strings him up and leaves hanging by his legs in front of Izuku Midoriya and his deku costume that was passing by. Leaving him for you, Izuku Midoriya, since you're close by anyway. Kate Batwoman then heads back to the Batwing after. XXX. Streets below. Oh, Izuku said after finding the unconscious thing and looks up to see who did that. I wonder. Deku used his quirk to jump high enough to get up to the roof, only to find no one is there before getting down again. Well, whoever did this is kind of mystery, Izuku commented before grabbing the thug and takes him to the police. Or maybe it's that mysterious vigilante again. Izuku is talking about Batwoman whom he and the others don't know about yet. XXX. Elsewhere. Overhaul, K-Batwoman sets her sights on a Yakuza gang, which is the Shy Hasakai. Yeah, I know he will make those quirk bullets, but just not yet at the moment, because that arc or event hasn't happened yet. K-Batwoman looks around the building from the window for the one named Eri. And he doesn't have Eri at this moment. Well, time to go now, and I will do nothing here at the moment. K-Batwoman returns to the Batwing and flies away again before anyone can spot her. Did you hear something? Shin Nemoto of the 8 Bullets asked his colleague Toya Satsuno. Maybe you're being an idiot hearing things because I didn't hear anything. Oh, shut up. XXX. Alleyway. Batwoman fights more quirkless thugs and managed to defeat them, all giving them some bruises, blacked eyes and broken body parts. Plus their leader who has a quirk, which is our super karate chops. But he is wearing a karate dojo outfit joins in. Okay, Batwoman, my turn. That karate chop villain, then do something moves while Batwoman stands her ground. Oh, before the fight, Kate introduces herself as Batwoman, but doesn't mention that she's operating freelance, leaving the villains to think that she is working with the other pro heroes. Yeah, the karate chop villain strikes a chop at Batwoman, but she uses her wrist gauntlets to block, leaving only a spark, but also undamaged. He throws more karate chop strikes, but unable to land a hit on Batwoman as she blocks it all with her bladed vambraces so easily. Yeah, Batwoman makes a quick move by pushing him back, which stuns him. The karate chop villain restarts his attack again, only to be finished off by a simple kick to the face that knocks him out in the end. Always be aware of what's coming, but obliviously you haven't, Batwoman commented while having a small laughter. XXX. Somewhere else. Island. Yeah, I know about the events that will happen here too. But that event hasn't happened yet still, Batwoman muttered, while looking at an image of Island from her Batwing, knowing the events to come. And yet, when that comes, all will be there in it. Batwoman vows to be there when that event happens before she gets off the Batwing and lands the streets where there is not much people around. Batwoman begins walking with some people who are on the streets doing whatever they want looking at her. That's because she's new here and they never seen her before. Batwoman stops in front of a young girl whom Batwoman recognizes all too well and much to her surprise. Excuse me, but are you a hero? The girl asks her if she is a hero. What's your name? Batwoman asks for her name first. Eri. Batwoman is surprised that the young girl is really Eri. Well, some of her thinking is this where she was before being taken in by Overhaul. Nice to meet you, Eri. I'm Batwoman. Batwoman introduced herself to Eri. Batwoman? That's kind of scary for a hero name. Eri commented on her thoughts about that. That's because I wish to strike fear on those who want to bring terror on the innocent, Batwoman said. That's because her cousin Bruce has done the same during his time as Batman back in Gotham in her dimension. Oh, that's nice, Eri said, while the people around these parts do agree that fear should be on the villains, not the innocent that they threaten. I have do something to make sure Eri doesn't fall into Overhaul's hands. Batwoman thought to herself, hoping she set things differently instead on how it originally went. But surely I know what I have in mind. XXX. Elsewhere. Oh, that new vigilante or mysterious takes out more villains, Izuku said, reading a newspaper while spending time with his girlfriend MT Lady. I just wonder who can that be. Izuku wonders who can it be anyway before being grabbed by MT Lady, causing him to drop the newspaper that he was just reading. Come on, Deku. We are on a date, remember? Yeah, coming. Kate Batwoman's path. Well, what I had in mind after meeting Eri, I decided to bring her to the Batcave in hopes to keep her out of Overhaul's hands. I guessed it worked out just fine bringing her here. Eri also told me that her quirk is called Rewind, but I already knew that. Plus, I told Eri that I have a cryopod here for her to use since she said she had trouble using her Rewind quirk. So she chose to go to sleep until she is ready to wake up. Oh, I have no idea where that cryotube came from. It wasn't here before when I got to the MHA universe, but it is now. Right now, someone who looks familiar creates a flaming bat on the rooftops, and she is calling out to me, probably to talk. I'm not going to ignore who's calling me to talk, and like I said before, this woman looks familiar for some reason. I don't have to worry about a sleeping area. Nobody knows where my bat cave is anyway. End of POV. Batwoman. MHA. XXX. Musutafu City rooftops. Nighttime. Batwoman arrives at the rooftop by Batwing and lands on the rooftop, where the woman is waiting for her while standing on the flaming bat. I've been waiting for Batwoman. The woman said to her that's been waiting. And you've been watching ever since I first arrived in your universe. Nana Shimura. Batwoman reveals that the woman who was watching her from the very beginning, when she arrived, was actually Nana Shimura. What Batwoman knows about Nana Shimura in the MHA universe. She was another previous user or wielder of the One for All quirk, and a master to Tashinori Yagi, who in the future would become All Might, the symbol of peace. Nana Shimura later died in her final fight against All for One. But this would end up badly for her son Kotaro Shimura, who has a grudges on all superheroes, because Nana chose to disown him, left him at the orphanage, even though she only did it to protect him from All for One. That's also because Kotaro was unaware of her mother's incoming fate. Kotaro always loses his mind and snaps whenever Tenko and his sister Hana Shimura talks about heroes, and he always abuses them both. But Tenko got the worst of it. But in the end, this ultimately seals their fate when Tenko's quirk known as decay manifested. Tenko's parents, sister and grandparents all perished when Tenko's decay quirk went out of control. What would happen next is Tenko would later meet up All for One and become Tamura Shigaraki of the League of Villains. Also, Tamura keeps the remains of his family, such as their hands. So are you a ghost, or you somehow survived and watched over everyone from the shadows? Batwoman asks her if she's really a ghost, or she really is alive somehow. To answer your question, Batwoman, I somehow survived when I got a new quirk, which is a ghost. Nana reveals how she somehow survived her last fight with All for One. But this left out of action for probably more than a year. Nana would have been left out action like in a coma-like state for some time, but it took her a long time for her to wake up. But you're already aware on what happened to your family while you were absent. Staring with your son Kotaro, who resents you, and many heroes make up false beliefs about them. Yeah, my own son holds a grudge on all heroes, but that drove my grandson into the path of a villain. Nana was fully aware on what happened, but she was still out of commission to intervene. But if you weren't out of commission, you would have prevented Tenko from becoming who he is right now. Batwoman mutters the part, if Nana just intervened. I know. I would kept my own son from holding a grudge and kept my grandson from becoming Tamura Shigaraki. Nana showing some regret for the events that happened due to her decision. You regret your choice? Yes, I do, Batwoman, and I'll say disowning him was my greatest mistake, even though I was just trying to protect him, because All for One was already on to me. Nana admits she regrets her choice. Still, this reminds Batwoman on how she and her dad Jacob gave up on looking for Beth due to being fooled by both August Cartwright and then Catherine Hamilton, which ultimately led her into becoming sociopathic villain known as Alice in the end. Listen, Nana, we'll have to part ways for now. But if you need to see me again, you already where to find me. Batwoman said that need to part ways for now, but Nana knows where to find her if she needs to see her again. I know, Nana said before disappearing like a ghost. XXX. Shimura Residences. Next, Batwoman arrives on the Tumblr at the old Shimura Residences. Long in ruin and decayed ever since Tenko lost control of his new decaying quirk that was manifesting due to Kotaro's abuse and grudge on all heroes. Batwoman commented, while staring at the decaying ruins of the old Shimura household. Kotaro's grudge against all heroes was to blame for what happened to Tenko that made him into a villain to begin with. But Nana admits what she did to Kotaro, just to keep All for One from targeting him, was her greatest mistake. Batwoman muttered about Nana admitted to her. If she hadn't done that to Kotaro, Tenko would have become the villain known as Tamura Shigaraki to begin. Kate Batwoman also said to herself on what could have avoided Tenko's downfall into becoming a villain. In my dimension, my universe, my Earth, MHA fans blamed Kitaro's abusive actions for Tenko's downfall into becoming Tamura Shigaraki. Kate Batwoman knows MHA fans blame Kitaro's actions and grudge, which turns Tenko into what he has become. I wonder if I can travel back in time and change that. But doing so, I can create an alternate universe where Tenko never became Tamura Shigaraki and instead become a hero like he originally wanted. Now Kate Batwoman talks about fixing things like preventing Tamura Shigaraki from ever existing to begin with. Well, jumping through other Earths is really possible. Maybe time travel can. Oh, I don't hide, because I know you're all watching me, Kate Batwoman said, knowing that they are watching her. All right, no more hiding. That voice belongs to all for one of the League of Villains, as they all come out of hiding and confronts Batwoman. Kate came Batwoman's paw. After putting Yuri to sleep in cryotube until she can no longer have trouble using her rewind quirk. Next up, I went to the rooftops to meet this mysterious familiar person, which turns out to be none other than Nana Shimura, who somehow survived her death against All for One, and also acquired a new quirk known as Ghost, but left her out of action for many years, although she is fully aware of what happened next while she was absent. Yeah, of what her son Kitaro did to his family due to his grudge, and what happened to her grandson Tenko, who later became Tamura Shigaraki of the League of Villains. Nana admits that disowning her son Kitaro was her greatest mistake, otherwise Tenko would not have become Tamura Shigaraki to begin with. Still, it reminded me of what happened when my dad gave up looking for Beth after being fooled by August Cartwright, which in turn made her into Alice. Next, after parting ways with Nana knowing we'll meet again, I went to the old Shimura household that's still in ruins ever since Tenko's decay quirk went out of control following its manifesting. I had some thoughts about fixing stuff since I still remember the times jumping to different Earths during the crisis. So maybe time travel is possible. Next, I get confronted by the League of Villains who were spying on me. End of POV. Batwoman. MHA. XXX. Shimura Residences, present time. Kate Batwoman finds herself confronted by the League of Villains, and it's just their leaders and the Vanguard Action Squad. She can only guess that her actions all around Musatafu City, by bringing down dozens of villains who are quirk and quirkless alike, have caught their attention after all. They confronted her for some reason, but she will find out what it really is. Pleasure to make your acquaintance, All for One. Especially you, Tamura Shigaraki? Or should I say, Tenko Shimura? Kate Batwoman blurting that out catches Tamura by surprise. How do you even know about that? Tamura asked Batwoman, how but unaware that she's from another dimension, where the MHA is just an anime and a work of fiction. Because your grandmother Nana Shimura is actually alive. Kate Batwoman then blurts out that Nana is really alive, much to the dismay of All for One. Although didn't blurt that she's from another Earth, which is the main reason why she knows Tenko Shimura. What? I thought I got rid of that woman. You did. But somehow Nana Shimura managed to survive, but was left out of action. Oh, she was fully aware of what her son Kitaro did that made Tenko into what he is right now. Kate Batwoman explains what happened and where Nana has been. So Batwoman, where she is now? All for One ask. But they could have only known about Batwoman after the ordeal with Lady Nagant if she said anything to them. But Kate Batwoman is not going to ask them that anyway. No idea. But enough of that. Why are you all confronting me? Kate Batwoman answered before changing the subject to know why have they confronted her. Well, Batwoman, your actions is that you've been beating many villains who are quirk and quirkless alike, but you answer to nobody. All for One mentions that they know about Kate Batwoman's crime fighting, but she's not answering to anybody like any hero would do. Correct. It means I'm just operating as a vigilante and freelance hero. Kate Batwoman and many heroes of her Earth have been like that, operating as vigilante and freelance heroes. And why exactly you choose operate like that knowing that everyone else would disagree with you? Tamira asked the next question why exactly she operates like that. But hey, it's not like everyone knows that Caped Woman is actually from an alternate Earth, where MHA is a anime. It's because I know there is corruption within the laws and governments, which some things that the heroes you know, and All Might too have never fought against. She said, but most likely because the creator of MHA wanted the idea of fighting corruption less reference. Corruption, you say? All for one asked, because they can believe that too, but in the villain way. Yes, this corruption comes from the greed for money and power, because if heroes would have no idea about who's honest and who's not unless someone can read their minds, they unknowing did something bad because they have no idea that the person they've worked with is corrupted until they figure that out. Cape Woman and all of the heroes of her Earth have seen plenty of corruption because greed. Okay. But other reason why we confronted you is because since you're not answering to anyone and working freelance, my thoughts is recruiting you into our cause. That's all for one's other reason, because they believe they can Batwoman into their side due to operating freelance. And you all know I can never be villain because in my time, I've always been protecting the innocent as a freelance hero. Plus, for the record, I'm quirkless. The quirkless part got everyone surprised. You're quirkless? Tamira said surprises after that big reveal. Yes. What it actually takes for me to be a freelance hero is my wits and military skills. Oh, I used to be a military soldier before all this. While Cape Woman keeps talking, she pressed something in her and bat belt, and making something very strong metal in her boots that can have enough force to knock someone out. But have you seen something like this? Then Cape Woman flashes the League of Villains, stunning all of them. Flashbang. All for one shouted, while trying to fix his sight due to the flashbang that Batwoman used to stun them all. I can't see, Himko said, rubbing her eyes. Oh my. Even Magna's sunglasses were useless against the flashbang because Batwoman might have used an advanced version of it. That Batwoman, Spinner shouted, while waking around rubbing his eyes. Just what kind of a flashback was that? Dabai wonders while trying to see better. Oh my eyes, Kurajiri shouts until he gets knocked out by Caped Woman, who spins kicks with the strong metal on her boots that turn into to be strong titanium. Caped Woman then proceeds to knock out Dabai. Mr. Compress, twice, Spinner, Mustard, Moonfish, Muscular, Himiko, Magni, Tamira, and all for one with a single powerful spin kick. To let you all know, you all had that one coming, Caped Woman comment, and then returns to her tumbler, and then drives away from the scene as someone else approaches. Hawks and Marco, Caped Woman said after seeing the rear camera of her tumbler. Well, at least I'm long gone before they can see me anyway. They still haven't catches a sight of her, so nobody can tell of her actions yet. While Caped Woman keeps driving back to the Bat Cave, she notices a text message from her Tumblr screen, and it's from Nana Shimura. Looks like Nana decided to show up in the Batcave. Well, at least she can probably help me along the way. Besides, I rarely work alone against villains in most of the times. Caped Woman did team with others heroes back on her Earth, and during the crisis too. I wonder if there are anybody else who would want to confront me. Caped Woman also wonders if there are anyone else who would want to confront just like the League of Villains did. Except they would all have bad intentions like them. XXX. Elsewhere. This Batwoman is somewhat interesting. Rikiya Yatsubashi aka Redistro of the Meta Liberation Army comment after he sent one his agents to watch Batwoman's confrontation with a League of Villains, even when she is crime-fighting villains in Musatafu City. So what's plan? Chitukazuki Aka curious ask what then after they all watched that. Oh, let's confront Batwoman ourselves and see if can recruit the Batwoman into our side. Beside, we all heard that she's as quirkless, and yet she was skillful enough to take out Quirk and Quirkless using her wits and military skills. Now the Meta Liberation Army wants to recruit Batwoman to their cause too. Caped Woman is back at her Batcave, and Eri is still asleep in her cryo tube. Right now she is looking for information about the Meta Liberation Army. Well, everything on them she has on them. Her reason why is because after her ordeal with the League of Villains, She then gets acquainted by them next. Batwoman. MHA. Metal Liberation Army Lore. By Kate Kane aka Batwoman. In the past, when society was going through a tough, some unknown crisis, this wasn't by quirks. It's by the meta-powers before they are even called quirk. When meta-powers were feared and their users hated, an unknown woman gave birth to her son Chikara Yatsubashi, a boy with a meta-powers. By having a superpower, Chikara was marginalized and despised by the population. His mother spoke out against this discrimination by claiming that his power was simply one of his quirks. She pleaded for a world where people with quirks have the same rights and considerations as everyone else. Unfortunately, no one listened to her, and she ended up getting murdered by an anti-meta group in the process. Her death and her ideals influenced the mindset of her son Chikara. With the proliferation of the quirks, the government began to regulate their use. In order to achieve it, they co-opted the words of the woman when they brought order back to the world, and the quirks were accepted. Therefore, the woman became known as the mother of quirks. A year later, Chikara was against this controlled system that the governments of the world put in. He claimed that the government seized and misrepresented his mother's words to restrict the use of quirks, believing that free use of quirks is a basic human right to do. To fight for that ideal, he unified the liberationists to form the Meta Liberation Army and took on the name Destro, the one who would destroy the status quo. Except the facts are is Destro will be doing a villain thing, and he doesn't see the flaws on using their quirks freely. While the government trudged ahead with legislation, Destro and his followers opposed the powers for several years until the militia group was ultimately defeated. Following their defeat, the group seemingly disbanded, and the Meta Liberation Army's Grand Commander, Destro, was incarcerated along with several of its members. After an unknown period of time, Destro took his own life during imprisonment. But he would have a legacy and his ideals would continue to exist. XXX. In Destro's legacy, the Meta Liberation Army made its mark on history as one of the most infamous villain groups, and their leader is compared to the likes of all for one of the League of Villains. Well, maybe I can compare them to villains of my Earth too. During his incarceration, Destro wrote The Meta Liberation War, an autobiographical book in which he exposes his ideology of quirk liberation, and resulted in several reprints due to its popularity. There are mixed opinions in regards to the actions of the Meta Liberation Army, with some individuals supporting their movement, while others dismissing it as acts of terrorism and ridiculed it for getting innocent civilians caught in the crossfire, and not caring for any of that. Unbeknownst to the world, Chikara actually had a son who would carry on his bloodline and legacy. His descendant, Rikiya Yatsubashi, was adopted by the army's surviving acolytes, who hiding his origins from the rest of the world, and has been groomed since childhood to bear the mantle of Destro, restoring the Meta Liberation Army once more and finish what Chikara started. Rikiya grew up and became the president and CEO of the Detnerat Company. Using his resources and influence, he rebuilt the Meta Liberation Army from the shadows, spreading Destro's ideology and gaining more followers, while avoiding attracting the attention of the authorities, such as the police and other heroes. By remaining in the shadows for decades, the Meta Liberation Army has amassed loyal warriors across many generations. Destro claims their army has over 100,000 men waiting to strike at society and liberate quirks. Members of the army salute by making an L with their index finger and thumb and placing the thumb on their forehead. Rikiya adopted the alias of Destro and became the current Grand Commander of the now secret society. Including him, the heads of the organization are successful entrepreneurs with innumerable resources and wealth. Tomoyasu Chikazoku, also known by the code name Skeptic, is a board member at Feel Good, Inc. Koku Hanabata, known as Trumpet, is the leader of the Hearts and Mind Party. And Chitos Kazuki, known as Curious, is the executive director of Shueisha Publishing, in charge of the reprinting of the Meta Liberation War. The Meta Liberation Army worships Destro and his vision. Therefore, Only Destro can be credited with the liberation of society. But growing entities like the League of Villains threaten to overtake Destro's name and must be destroyed. But they can never view themselves as villains, which they are actually. XXX. To achieve the objective of destroying the League of Villains, Redestro orders the capture of Jurin, the League's broker, to obtain information about them. However, Jurin managed to erase all the information from his computer, and despite the torture he is subjected to, he refuses to reveal anything about the League of Villains. Redestro has no choice but to use Skeptic's skills to retrieve information from the broker's computer, a process that it takes more than a month to achieve. During that time, Jurin continues to be tortured, and the fingers of his right hand are cut off and left with a piece of his clothing in places where the League of Villains had been, such as Shai Hesekai Compound, Hasu City, the Chuo Expressway, Kamino Ward, and Fukuoka. Once Skeptic retrieves the information, Redestro contacts the League of Villains, informing them of who they are, what their objectives are, and the inconveniences they represent for them. Redestro ends the message issuing a declaration of war against Tamura Shigaraki and his allies, giving them an ultimatum: come to Deka City and face their elimination at the hands of the Meta Liberation Army, or do nothing and be captured by the heroes when he gives them their location. Well, All for One is still imprisoned at that time. Without much a choice, the League of Villains for Deka City, and they are all warped close to the city. Deka City is the perfect place for the Liberation Army to hide due to its location. Routes entering and exiting the city are easily manipulated. Deka is a liberated district where the majority of residents align themselves with the Liberation Army. XXX. Despite the talk and fight they put up with, the League of Villains are the victors and the MLA lost. In the end, Tamura Shigaraki takes command, and the MLA are assimilated into the League of Villains. It would be called the Paranormal Liberation Front. XXX. 9 hours earlier, somewhere in Mustafu City next day. Off you League of Villains go. Cape Batwoman from the roof of a smaller building is watching from a large screen showing the League of Villains being sent off to Tartarus prison after she knocked them all out, allowing two heroes, Witch Hawks and Mirko, to find them. Cape Batwoman paused for a moment as she noticed someone is sneaking up behind her. I know you're there, Cape Batwoman muttered, and the stranger halts, and she turns around to look. Oh, it's you, Rikiya Yatsubashi, aka Redestro and leader of the Meta Liberation Army. Cape Batwoman speak that out, which surprises Redestro. Okay, I'm not going to ask how did you know me, he muttered, but he and MLA have no idea that Batwoman is from another Earth, which is the real explanation on how. So what is it, Redestro? Cape Batwoman asked to state his business with her. Okay, down to business. I had one of my agents spy and watch you deal with the League of Villains and heard that you're quirkless, but you used your military training to beat some villains who are quirk and quirkless alike before your ordeal with the League of Villains. Also, you said that you're not answering to anyone and operate freelance. Redestro tells her everything he heard from his agent, who watching her actions against the League of Villains, and everything she said before. Only because I know there is corruption within the governments and law enforcements, which many heroes have not idea of, because they never fought against corruption, and always against super villains. Cape Batwoman speaks her own many reason on why she operates freelance like many of the other heroes of her Earth. Okay, corruption is your reason for operating freelance, rather answering to anyone. But this my other reason why I confronted you. I was thinking of recruiting you into the MLA cause. Cape Batwoman paused after hearing that big reveal from Redestro. Is he really serious? Cape Batwoman thought to herself. But I won't hear your answer here in Musutafu City. If you're going to give me an answer, then come to Deka City. I'll be waiting for you there. We'll be all waiting for to hear your answer. After Redestro leaves the buddling without a trace. They want me in Deka City. They get my answer there. Cape Batwoman muttered to herself, knowing she will be giving her answer to the MLA once she's in Deka City. XXX. Batcave. Cape Batwoman boards the Batwing and takes off for Deka City. The one thing she needs is to be well prepared once they don't get the answer they are hoping for.